In Duskhaven, the clocks stop, the roads loop, and no one ever truly leaves. Tonight, Mara walks into the forest, and you'll wish she hadn't. Part 1. Welcome to Duskhaven. I'd been driving for 6 hours through a blur of endless pine and skeletal trees when the signal died. One moment, the GPS was leading me down winding Oregon back roads, and the next, blank screen. No cell towers, no map. Just the last road sign I passed before the world seemed to dissolve around me. Duskhaven, 4 miles, it read. The paint was faded, like it hadn't been touched since the Cold War. The sign leaned slightly, as if even it wanted to leave. After that, there was nothing. No more signs, no more towns, only forest. Thick, old-growth forest that leaned in like it was eavesdropping. The trees wore moss like skin. The road cracked beneath me like a tired bone, and then, just when I thought I must have taken a wrong turn, and there it was. Duskhaven, a town carved into a clearing, perfectly still, like it had been placed there carefully with tweezers. It didn't feel abandoned, no worse. It felt like it had been waiting. I parked, opened the door. The air was wrong. Too still, too dense, like I'd stepped into a painting that hadn't finished drying. The wind died the moment I crossed the threshold of the town. I spoke into my recorder, and mostly to hear another voice. Mara Keene, Day 1. I've arrived in Duskhaven, Oregon. Population unknown. Altitude, dead silence. I'm here on assignment. Unofficially, there have been stories of disappearances. People vanish at night. No reports, no evidence, no bodies. They just stop being. These are the kind of tales the internet loves. Message board myths, folklore-level paranoia. But it's not just urban legend. I traced 6 disappearances to this region in the last 2 years. They never made it into papers, just quietly dropped off the map. And every breadcrumb leads here. Duskhaven. The town looked untouched by time. Main Street was lined with tidy brick buildings, a barber shop, a post office, a bakery, a general store with a faded closed sign that never seemed to flip. Everything, pristine, and yet there wasn't a soul in sight. I walked down the sidewalk, gravel crunching underfoot, until a little bell above a door rang as I stepped into the general store. A woman stood behind the counter, mid-50s, kind smile. Her eyes didn't quite meet mine. "Excuse me, I'm looking for somewhere to stay." She didn't hesitate. "You'll want the old inn, 2 streets down. You can't miss it. Just make sure you're settled before sundown." The way she said it, soft, automatic, like she was repeating a prayer, like she'd said it to too many others. "Why?" I asked. "Town goes to bed early, always has." Her smile didn't change, but something behind her eyes did. I left without buying anything. The door chime echoed far too long behind me. The inn was easy to find. Tall, creaking, wooden, Victorian bones and chipped paint. I stepped in and immediately felt the air shift, like the house was adjusting to my presence. An old woman stood behind the desk. She was already holding a key. "You're the journalist." It wasn't a question. Word travels fast, I muttered. She gave a dry chuckle. "Newsfolk don't come unless something's wrong." I nodded. "That's what I'm here to find out." She leaned forward. "Then I'll say this once. Stay inside after dark, lock your door, and no matter what you hear, or what you think you see, don't open it." I should have laughed. Said it sounded like local legend, but she wasn't joking. "Is that a threat?" I asked. She shook her head. "It's a kindness." The room was small. 2nd floor. Smelled like cedar and old rain. I unpacked, recorded some notes. The sun dipped behind the trees just before 6. And then, everything changed. It didn't set. It vanished. Like someone had thrown a blanket over the sky. Golden light gone in an instant. Gray shadows sliding in. I looked out the window and felt my stomach drop. The town was gone, not the buildings, the life. Every light off, Doors closed, curtains drawn. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was surgical, precise, like the town had been cut out of the world and left behind. No footsteps, no cars, no dogs barking. Even the street lamps had gone dark. I leaned closer to the glass. There was nothing, just emptiness, until I saw it. At first, I thought it was a trick of the dark, my own reflection maybe. But no, it was standing in the middle of the street, still, tall, thin, faceless in the dark, but I could feel it looking up at me. I couldn't breathe. I reached for my recorder. Instinct. There's something, someone, in the street. It's not moving, just staring. I can't see its face, but I know it sees me. It's breathing. There's steam or smoke coming off it like fog. What the hell is it? It took a step. I jumped back, my chest tight. I wasn't alone. My phone buzzed in my hand. A file was playing. I hadn't hit record. My voice distorted, whispering, "Don't blink. Don't turn your back. Don't leave the light." I dropped it. My hands were shaking. I didn't remember saying that. I'd never said that. And then, 3 sharp knocks. Not at the door to the inn. At my room. I froze. The doorknob rattled. I whispered, "Is someone there?" Then came the voice. High-pitched, innocent, a child. "Come outside, it's your turn. Now." I backed away slowly, holding the phone like a weapon. The knocking stopped, but the silence that followed was worse. I crept back to the window. The street was empty. Whatever I saw, it was gone. But not far. I could feel it, still watching, still waiting. My recorder slid off the desk without being touched. Hit the floor. With a click, I whispered into it, "I'm not alone here." The wind picked up again, but beneath it, there was something else. Breathing, not mine. Something in the walls, or below them. Something that moves when the town goes still. Day 1. Duskhaven is quiet at night, but it isn't empty. And something in the dark already knows I'm here. And I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. Part 2. The things that fill the silence. The air in Duskhaven doesn't carry sound the way it should. It's as if noise is something the town once allowed, and then decided to forget. There are no birds, no barking dogs, not even the idle buzz of a distant lawnmower or a conversation behind a screen door. Just wind, brushing against trees that never really move. Not the way trees are meant to. Their limbs shift a few inches at most, as if restrained, as if they're listening to something deeper than wind. Since my first night in Duskhaven, I haven't slept. Not really. I close my eyes, but I don't rest. I keep the lights on, I don't open the curtains, and every night, I check the lock on my door. Once, twice, 3 times. But that figure from the street still lingers in my mind like an afterimage burned into my thoughts. It never moved, not much. It just watched. And I can't stop thinking about what might have happened if I'd opened the door. But I came here for answers. And answers don't live in daylight conversations. They hide in forgotten corners behind pages that no one's read in years. Truth in a town like this rots in records no one wants to acknowledge. So I made my way to the library, 2 streets down from the inn, past a hardware store whose windows were so dusted over I wasn't even sure it was real. I'd never seen anyone go in, never seen it open. The library was sunken into the ground like it had tried to hide itself from the rest of town. No sign, just a narrow red door and stained glass too dark to see through. It smelled like mildew and wax when I stepped inside. Cold too, like the building held its own season. The librarian was already watching me. Her name was Nora Head. She looked like she'd once been taller, straighter, but now she curved inward as if afraid of standing fully upright. Her hair was silver and knotted, her fingers long and stained with ink. And her eyes were like melted glass. When I asked about the disappearances, she didn't flinch, didn't pretend not to understand, but she did glance toward a tall, long case clock in the corner, the kind you'd see in old churches. Its hands were stuck at 2:11. It was morning. Some hours, Nora whispered almost reverently, don't belong to us anymore. I asked her what that meant. She didn't answer. Instead, she walked into the shadows between shelves. No footsteps, just movement, like she floated. A few minutes later, she returned, carrying a book so thick it looked like it had been bound in animal hide. It was cracked and leathery, and she held it like it might bite. A register, Duskhaven's historical record. She handed it to me without a word. The first half was pristine. Names, dates, births, marriages, all neatly written, generations carefully preserved, until the year 1912. Then, madness. Every page after 1912 was defaced, meticulously, as though someone had gone line by line and erased history. Dates were slashed out with red ink. Names were smudged until the paper tore. Newspaper clippings had their headlines scratched. Out the words bled dry with angry pen strokes. And in the margins, one note stood out, scribbled sideways in jagged print. The town was taken by silence. It gave something back. I traced the ink with a fingertip. The paper trembled, not from my touch, from something else, like it didn't want to be touched. I'm just here to document, I muttered. That's all I'm doing. That night, the silence returned, but this time it felt heavier. It had weight, volume. Even the wooden floor of the inn creaked softer, like it didn't want to draw attention. Then it started. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Soft at first, delicate, like someone drawing circles on the inside of the wall, like fingernails under skin. I followed the sound, pressed my ear to the wallpaper. It moved, slowly, from one side of the room to the other, beneath the floorboards. I got down on my knees and felt around the baseboard near the bed. That's when I found it, a loose plank. The wood gave with a gentle pop. Beneath it, a drawing. A child's drawing, yellowed with age. Stick figures stood beneath a massive black circle in the sky. Their limbs were thin and drooping. Some were melting, I'm sure of it. The houses around them twisted like ribbon, bending in angles that no human eye should understand. At the bottom of the page, a crooked sun leered with jagged teeth. The ink was smeared like the child had drawn too hard. Written beneath, in a shaky hand, was one sentence. This is after. I stared at it for a long time, too long. I placed it on the nightstand and tried to slow my breathing. Told myself it was just a dream, a prank, a story someone else had forgotten to finish. At 2:11 a.m., my door creaked open. It didn't slam, it didn't burst. It opened. Slowly. Too slowly. As if whatever was behind it wanted me to listen. I froze. No footsteps. No voices. Just darkness. I leaned into the doorway, recorder in hand. Hello? Only my voice echoed back. Hollow. Unanswered. I closed the door, locked it, again, and backed away. I bumped into the dresser, nearly dropped the recorder. That's when I heard it playing. Hadn't hit play, but it was playing. A voice crackled through the static. It wasn't mine. We live around the clock, it said. A whisper, warped. A voice that barely sounded human. Not before, not after, just between. I replayed the audio, hands shaking. Same message. Then, my voice responded, but I don't remember saying it. What happens when the hands meet? A long pause. Then laughter. Soft. Wet. Like something rotting in the back of a throat. I dropped the recorder, shoved it under the bed like it might crawl out of my hands. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Outside, the world held its breath. No cars, no crickets, no clocks. But if you listened hard enough, just beyond the glass, the air was humming, a faint vibration, like someone breathing through gritted teeth, like something ancient pressing its mouth against the edge of time, and waiting for you to listen back. Part 3. Everyone leaves, but no one comes back. I don't remember the last time I heard a voice that wasn't my own. Day 3 in Duskhaven. No cell service, no internet, no noise. Just this constant pause. Like the whole town is holding its breath and waiting for something to finish breathing. Or start. Tonight feels different. The air presses against the windows like a tide. The light bulbs in the inn's hallway pulse softly, like they're breathing, like they're anxious, and I'm scared. More than I've admitted, but I need to see it. I need to prove that what I felt that first night wasn't in my head, that those people, if they are people, didn't just vanish. They left, and I want to know where they went. I sit at the edge of the bed holding my night vision camcorder like it's a weapon. My hands are trembling. My breath comes in small, shallow drags. I press record. Click. The red light blinks, and I head into the night. The square is empty, abandoned almost, but not in a dead way. It feels dormant, as if everything here is only pretending to be still. There's a single street lamp flickering above the bench where I first saw the figure 2 nights ago. The light flutters like a moth caught in its own flame. The rest of the town lies in shadow. No crickets. No breeze. My footsteps echo louder than they should. Even the air recoils from sound now. I set up the tripod. Camera pointed straight down Main Street. Zoomed in on the row of houses. And I wait. If they vanish, I whisper to myself. I'll see it no matter what. I'll see it this time. And then, the light above me explodes. Pop glass showers the ground. My camera screen flickers, then glitches, then goes black. No, come on, I mutter, fumbling with wires. Nothing. I yank out my backup flashlight. Click, nothing. Battery's gone even though I checked them an hour ago. Suddenly it's black, so black I can't see my hands. Then, movement. Doors. Quietly opening. Every house on the street. One by one. Perfectly timed. Not a sound. I duck behind the nearest mailbox. My body pressed flat to the cold metal. I don't breathe. I don't dare breathe. And they come out. Barefoot. Pale. Their eyes look glassed over. Like they've been drowned. They don't speak. They don't look at each other. They just walk. Slowly. Down the street. Their heads tilted slightly toward the sky, as if listening to something I can't hear. They're not sleepwalking, they're leaving. I follow. I keep to the trees, my feet sinking into the wet leaves and mulch. My camera flickers back to life, only for seconds at a time. Just enough to catch pieces, a woman with a broken wrist dragging her hand behind her like it's numb. A child no more than 8, except he casts no reflection in the lens. The lens bends around him, distorting. The procession moves with purpose. They're not wandering, they're being led. But by what? The trees grow denser, the trail less defined. My breath clouds in the air even though the night isn't cold. And then we reach it, a massive ring of moss-covered stones, maybe 20 feet across. Each stone is carved, etched deeply with names. Some weathered into nothing, others sharp, freshly carved. They step into the circle one by one, and they begin to hum. It's not a melody, it's a frequency, a low rattling vibration that I feel more than hear. My teeth ache, my skull pulses, and the woods respond. The trees bend slightly inward, not in the wind, but toward the circle, as if being pulled, as if gravity's changed its rules here, and then, pop. A man disappears. Pop, a girl, gone. No light, no sound, just absence. And in their place, only shadows, burned into the moss, human-shaped, like nuclear flash silhouettes. I stare in horror. It's not teleportation. It's not some portal, it's removal, like the universe just erased them. I stumble forward, dazed, drawn, hypnotized. Then I see it. One of the stones, not the old ones, one of the newer ones, and on it, my name, Mara Keene. October 14th. I blink. Today is October 12th. I grab my phone, check again. October 12th. But the stone says 2 days from now. That means I'm already supposed to vanish. Suddenly a breeze cuts through the trees. Sharp, cold. I look up. The humming stopped. The clearing is empty. But behind me, footsteps. I turn. No one there. I burst into my room, slam the door, lock it, bolt it. My breath comes in gasps. I rewind the camcorder. I have to see it again. Need to prove I'm not insane. I pause the footage. Zoom in on one of the figures just before they vanish. It's me, same jacket, same scarf, same blank stare. I fast forward, then rewind again. It's me. Not just the name on the stone. I was in the circle. I grab my voice recorder, hands shaking. I hit play. It's my voice, but I don't remember recording it. Don't try to stop it. You already went. Then, static. Flashes. Me, stepping into the circle. My eyes empty. Mouth humming. The stone glowing faintly beneath my feet. My body unraveling at the edges. Pop. Gone. Only a shadow left behind. I stare into the mirror. I want to scream, but my throat feels stitched shut. My reflection looks back at me. Same face, same eyes. But then, it smiles. I don't. I never moved. The whisper comes from nowhere, from everywhere. 2 nights left, then silence. Part 4, the town where the wind stays still. I woke into silence again. But this time, it wasn't the usual stillness that clings to Duskhaven like damp wool. This was different, heavier, wrong. The kind of silence that doesn't just fill a room, it presses into it. Like all the air had been sucked out and something else had taken its place. Something that wanted me to notice it. I rolled over and looked at the clock on the wall. 29 am, 1 tick. Then nothing. I waited. 1 more second. 1 more heartbeat. But noon never came. I sat up, suddenly wide awake. My phone, frozen. Laptop, frozen. Wristwatch, you guessed it, 11:59. Nothing moved, nothing advanced. I opened the curtains expecting sun, maybe even the harsh kind that hurts your eyes after a long night. But the sun hadn't moved either. It just hovered there, stalled, just before the top of the sky. I stepped back from the window, unsettled, because I've seen time behave strangely here. Shadows that don't move, wind that doesn't return. But this was different. This wasn't just time misbehaving, this was time locked in place. I stepped outside. The light hit my skin like stale breath. Dry. Artificial. Old. It wasn't warm like sun. It was like standing beneath a heat lamp that had been on too long. The shadows on the ground were frozen. Like someone had taken a photograph and nailed it into the dirt. Dust hovered in the air, not falling, not rising, just suspended. Not a single sound. No birds, no wind, no passing cars. Even the trees didn't sway. I walked down the center of the street. Every door was open, every house empty, not ransacked, not ruined, just waiting. I pressed the recorder close to my mouth. Mara, into recorder. It's like the entire town is holding its breath. Time's been stretched, or trapped. The air feels thick, like syrup in my lungs. I didn't know where I was going until I was there. The church was open, like everything else in Duskhaven, but there was something worse about its stillness. Churches are supposed to feel holy, even when empty, especially when empty. but this place felt like something forgot to die inside it. The pews were blanketed in dust, years, maybe decades thick. The altar candles had melted so far down that the wax had oozed and hardened into grotesque shapes like something organic, something grown. No cross, no stained glass, no windows at all. Instead, the walls were covered in paintings. Amateur, crude, but chilling. One canvas stretched across the back wall. A landscape of Duskhaven beneath a black sky. Not nighttime, not clouds, just absence. A void where sky should be. Like the world forgot to finish rendering. Mara. No stars, no sun, no moon. Just the absence of everything. I approached the altar and noticed a pile of yellowed papers beneath a broken candelabrum. Sermons, handwritten, but all of them written in reverse. Mirror script. Who writes backwards? I pulled a compact mirror from my bag. I always carry one, a habit from long hours filming in bad light. I held it over the page. To preserve the hours, we offered the noon. In return, he sleeps beneath. Then, a creak behind me. I spun, heart leaping. Nothing, but I felt it. The cold breath of attention. Something saw me read that line. A narrow door beside the altar stood slightly ajar. I hadn't noticed it before. I pushed it open and descended the stairs into the basement. The air changed the moment I crossed the threshold. Thicker, wet, dense, like walking into a drowned lung. Old hymnals lined the walls, their spines mold soft and unreadable. One wall was dominated by a mural, a spiral painted over and over in descending rings, a vortex plunging into the earth. At the center of it, a figure, faceless, arms raised, all-consuming. Mara, into recorder. This wasn't built for worship. This was built for containment. Then I heard it, a sob, faint, fragile, coming from behind a rotted wooden door in the corner. I opened it slowly. A single candle flickered on the ground. Mayor Thatcher sat slumped in a chair, his head buried in his hands, his suit stained, his body still, but his shoulders shook with quiet, tired sobs. Mara, Mr. Mayor. He didn't look up. Thatcher. I told them not to ask for it, but they did. They begged for an end to the long night, to the darkness that wouldn't lift in 1912. I stepped closer. Mara, what did they do? Thatcher. A deal. His voice trembled, like someone speaking from inside a dream. Thatcher. A shape came from the valley. It had no mouth, but we heard it speak. Said it could fix the sky, end the long night, make time livable again. But we had to give something. Mara. What? Thatcher, looking up, eyes wild. We gave it noon. He laughed, dry and broken. Thatcher. You ever notice there's no lunch bell here? No kids at recess? No shadows that move past midday? I didn't respond. Thatcher whispers. Because if the sun ever touches the top of the sky, if we ever accidentally reach noon, we don't just vanish. We're consumed. I found the old records in the municipal building. Dusty, brittle paper. A journal entry from 1912. If he dreams too long, he forgets the pact. Noon becomes hunger. Another page and a crude hand-drawn clock over a map of Duskhaven. A trap, not a timepiece. The center marked with a sigil I recognized. The same one burned into the back of my neck the morning after I arrived. Mara. They traded a sliver of reality for the illusion of safety. But comfort spoils. And rot always spreads. Back in my room, still alone. The wall clock still reads 11:59, but now it's ticking again, once, every 30 seconds, like time is bleeding forward by the drop. Mara whispering into recorder. It's not frozen, it's being stretched. That second, it's being prolonged, like something's holding it back, refusing to let it end. Then, scratching in the walls, followed by laughter. A child's giggle. Then, silence. I stepped back outside. The sky was dark now, but the moon pulsed, not bright, not glowing, pulsing, like a heartbeat, like a warning. I walked through the square. Somewhere in the distance I heard humming. Low, familiar. I looked up at the church tower. The bell was cracked straight down the middle. Mara, if time breaks here, it won't just stop. It'll feed. Then I turned. The inn behind me, all the windows were lit now, and in every one, my reflection. Dozens of me, all standing still, all watching. And one of them smiled. They made a deal to survive the dark, but they forgot. The dark doesn't honor deals. It collects, and it's almost hungry again. Part 5, Names that Echo in the Fog. I woke to stillness, not the kind that gently cradles you in a quiet morning, but the kind that feels intentional, aggressive, as if even the air had forgotten how to move. There was no wind outside my window, no rustle of trees, no chirping birds, not even the groan of old floorboards, just nothing. When I sat up, I noticed the light filtering through the curtains was gray, not just foggy, smudged, like someone had erased the world with the side of their palm. Went to the mirror, and there it was, a mark. Soot black and precise, branded just beneath my collarbone, shaped like a symbol I couldn't name. It hadn't been there the night before, but something deep in me recognized it. I opened my notebook. I'd drawn that symbol once before, hurriedly, half from memory, half from fear, back in the church basement, on the wall behind the altar. I didn't know what it meant then. I'm not sure I know now, but I felt it, like a name I'd forgotten how to say. I stepped out into Duskhaven just after 7, but the sky hadn't changed since I'd opened my eyes. A dense, choking fog coiled through the streets, thick enough to swallow buildings, lampposts, even the trees lining the road. I could barely see 5 feet ahead, and yet, I wasn't alone. People were out, kind of. I passed a woman standing perfectly still, a ceramic mug frozen halfway to her lips. A man leaned against a parking meter, but his eyes were wide, too wide, locked on the sky. A little boy, mid-sprint, 1 foot raised, unmoving. Their mouths hung open slightly. Their skin was waxy and pale, and their breath, barely there, rose in slow, unnatural plumes. I waved my hand in front of one man's face. Nothing, no blink, no flinch. But his eyes, they weren't empty. They were terrified. I didn't know where else to go. So I went down, to the library, its basement, the one place that still seemed to whisper answers, even if they came in riddles. The fog followed me down the stairs like a living thing, curling along the floor and licking the edges of old filing, cabinets and water-stained boxes. I turned on my flashlight. The beam passed over the far wall, and I stopped breathing. It was my name, dozens of times. Scratched into the plaster, the stone, the backs of books, even across the crumbling spines of shelved volumes. Mara Keene, Mara Keene, Mara Keene. Each one written in a different hand, each one etched with frantic, obsessive energy. When I turned, I saw it, a mirror, old, blackened, leaning against the wall under a moth-eaten sheet. I pulled it back, and there I was, but not me. Not now. My skin was pale, loose, my eyes sunken and hollow. I looked like something pulled from a pond, mouth slightly open, as if I'd forgotten how to close it. Then she spoke. Me, but not you. Already disappeared once, she said. Her voice was wet, thin. You're just remembering. I backed away, heart thudding. What are you? I asked. She tilted her head. That shrinking smile spread across her face. "I'm what you left behind," she whispered. "The part that stayed. The part that hummed with them in the trees. I'd remember that." "You will." Then she was gone. My reflection returned to normal, but the room didn't. Whispers started crawling across the floor, sliding into the corners, slithering under my skin. They weren't words at first, just syllables, just sounds. Then my name, 1,000 voices, 100 directions, all hissing, "Mara." I don't remember how I got back to the church, or maybe I never left it. The shrine was just as I remembered, flickering candles that never went out. Soot scrawled across the walls like mold, feathers charred and curling on the altar. But this time, I saw them, symbols, dozens, branded into the stone behind the altar, each the size of a human throat, each burned deep, and one of them was glowing. Beneath it, in faint old ink, my name, Mara Keene. I reached up and touched the mark on my own skin. It burned cold. "They marked me," I said out loud. Like the others, the hum began again, low at first, so soft I could almost pretend it wasn't real. But it grew. It always did. Something slid behind me, a shadow, but not mine, not anything visible. It moved like water, but crawled like bone. The whispers returned, louder now. My name, over and over. I dropped my recorder. I think it's still down there, still listening. I woke in bed again, but my clock read 2:11 a.m. It was still ticking. The fog had returned to my window, dense, oily, watching, and then the mirror. At first it was blank, then a handprint from inside the glass. She stepped into view again, the older version of me. Her mouth unhinged too wide, smile cutting up the sides of her face. "The fog doesn't come for you," she said, voice warping. "It comes from you." The mirror cracked, but didn't break. Behind her, shadows circled like vultures, like lovers, like roots curling inward. By dawn I was outside, in the square. The fog was thicker now, denser. It pulsed like a lung. All around me, the townspeople, the frozen ones, began to blink. Their eyes twitched, their mouths closed, but none of them moved. They all stared at me, and the humming came back. Not from around me, from within, low, unearthly, starving. Then a child's voice, soft and distant. "She's almost gone again." I dropped to my knees and whispered, "How do I leave?" The answer came everywhere and nowhere. "You don't. You just forget you stayed." The last thing I remember before everything went black was this: a dozen reflections of myself in every window, all unmoving, all watching, and one of them smiled, and then, in unison, a whisper, a verdict. "You were always here, Mara Keene." Part 6, The Last Night in Duskhaven. It started just before sundown. I packed what little I had, stuffing notebooks and my recorder into my bag. The plan was simple: walk to the road, keep going, don't stop until I'm out. I didn't care if I had to walk for days. I just wanted out of Duskhaven. But when I stepped out of the inn, the streets didn't look the same. The corner where the bakery used to be now curved sharply left. The general store was gone. In its place stood a building I'd never seen, its windows bricked up, its doors painted shut. I turned around and the inn had vanished. Just fog behind me, white and endless. I ran. I turned corners that should have taken me back to Main Street, but they only folded in on themselves. Every alley I took looped back to the same house with the dead ivy on its porch. Every path brought me back to the same cracked lamppost. Stopped running when I reached the edge of town, except it wasn't the edge anymore, it was the square, and it was empty. No footsteps. No sounds, not even birds anymore. The sky had frozen, not with clouds or color, but with a flat gray that stretched too far, too close. The moon hung above like it had been stitched into the air, immovable, wrong. I sat down on the steps of the church backward as always, and played the last tape on my recorder. I expected interviews, notes, a clue, something. What I heard was me, but not in any language I know. It was my voice, undeniably mine, but the words were twisted, bent, like I was reciting backwards scripture through a mouth that wasn't mine. A chant, a hymn, a confession. Then silence, followed by breath. My breath. But I wasn't breathing. I dropped the recorder, and then they came back. Not slowly, not all at once. They just were. The square was full. Every figure I'd seen frozen mid-step, now standing still as statues. They lined the sidewalks, the porches, the windows, watching. None of them blinked. None of them spoke. Until one, a woman I hadn't seen before, or maybe I had but couldn't remember, stepped forward. She held something in her hand. A candle. Plain. White. Unlit. She offered it to me without a word. I took it. Her hand was ice. When I looked down, I realized I wasn't wearing shoes anymore. My feet were bare, pressed against the cold stone. When I looked up, they had turned. One by one. They faced the forest and began to walk. I didn't think. I followed. The air thickened the deeper we went. Fog clung to the trees like webs. The ground beneath us hummed. Not a sound, not a tremble, but a memory of movement, like something vast breathing under the soil. The others held their candles low. Not one was lit. We reached the clearing with the stones, the place I'd seen nights before. The same ring, but wider now, deeper. Each stone bore a name. One bore mine, and beneath it, the date. Today. I opened my mouth to scream, to say something, to beg for someone to tell me this was a lie, a nightmare, a trick. But my voice didn't come. Instead, a whisper rose from the trees, not from above, from below. A voice, mine, again, soft, distant, layered like wind through a tunnel, and it said, "It's only night once you've forgotten the sun." And I understood. I remembered now. I had disappeared once, and this was the coming back, or maybe the going again. I don't know anymore. Dropped the recorder in the grass and walked forward, barefoot, glass-eyed, candle in hand. If the shadows whispered your name, would you answer? Thanks for watching this journey into Duskhaven, where time stands still and truth walks barefoot into the trees. If you enjoyed the story, hit that like button, subscribe for more haunting tales, and share this video with someone who loves a good scare. The night isn't over. Not yet.